The date is August 9th, 2026. Toronto, Canada. Sobeys Stadium. The National Bank Open has just witnessed one of the most stunning upsets in recent memory. World number 1 Aryna Sabalenka, the four-time Grand Slam champion, the woman who has dominated women's tennis for nearly 2 years, has been eliminated in the fourth round by Russian 16th seed Ekaterina Alexandrova. The match ends 7-6, 3, 4-6, 6-4 after 2 hours and 29 minutes of brutal tennis. Sabalenka walks off the court, her face a mask of frustration. She had been defending 500 points from her title run the previous year. She had been expected to make a deep run. She had been expected to win. But on this night, in front of a crowd that was anything but neutral, something else was happening. Just a few hundred meters away, in another part of the stadium, Alexandra Eala was preparing for her own match. The 21-year-old Filipina had already sold out center court in 30 minutes. She had already defeated an Olympic gold medalist. She had already become the biggest story in tennis. And now, the world number 1 was about to speak. The press conference room is packed. Journalists from around the world are waiting. The questions are already forming. What went wrong? How did you lose? What does this mean for the US Open? But Sabalenka has other plans. She sits down at the table. She takes a deep breath. And then she delivers a statement that no one saw coming. A statement that would send shockwaves through the tennis world. A statement that would leave fans stunned, analysts speechless, and a 21-year-old from Quezon City wondering if she had heard correctly. Alex Eala is the world's number 1 player, Sabalenka says. The room falls silent. The cameras keep rolling, and the tennis world explodes. To understand the magnitude of Sabalenka's statement, one must first understand the weight of her reign. Aryna Sabalenka has been the dominant force in women's tennis for nearly 2 years. She first ascended to the world number 1 ranking on October 21, 2024, slipping past Iga Swiatek into the top spot with little fanfare. Since then, she has held the position with an iron grip. By August 2026, she had spent 94 total weeks at number 1, including 86 consecutive weeks. She became just the 10th player in history to spend 100 weeks as world number 1. She finished both 2024 and 2025 as the year-end world number 1, becoming one of only 7 players this century to accomplish that feat in consecutive seasons. She had won 4 Grand Slam titles. She had been named one of the 100 most influential people in sports by Time magazine. She had become a global icon. But the 2026 season had been different. Sabalenka had struggled in 3-set matches, posting a 4-6 record in matches that went the distance. She had more defeats in 3-setters in a single season than any world number 1 other than Caroline Wozniacki, who had 7 in 2011, since the WTA rankings were first created in 1975. Her service game, once her greatest weapon, had shown signs of vulnerability. She had recorded a service game 1 percentage of 88.3%, which was still the second highest on tour, but the cracks were beginning to show. Her breakpoints save percentage had dropped. Her aces were down, and her opponents were beginning to believe they could beat her. Sabalenka had been defending her title at the US Open, where she had triumphed the previous year. But the road to New York was not going according to plan. The Australian Open had ended in a final loss to Elena Rybakina. The clay season had been inconsistent. And now, on the hard courts of Toronto, she had been ousted in the 4th round by a player she had beaten 5 times before. The math was unforgiving. Sabalenka was defending 500 points from her Toronto title run in 2025. The loss meant she would lose those points, and while she still held a substantial lead over Rybakina in the rankings, the gap was narrowing. For the first time in her reign, Sabalenka looked vulnerable, and in that vulnerability, something unexpected happened. She looked at the player who had become the biggest story in tennis, the player who had filled stadiums, sold out tickets, and captured the hearts of millions. She looked at Alexandra Eala, and she saw something that no one else had seen. While Sabalenka was struggling on the court, Alexandra Eala was becoming a phenomenon. The 21-year-old from Quezon City had started the year ranked outside the top 30. By August, she had climbed to a career-high number 20 in the world. But her ranking told only part of the story. She had become the biggest draw in women's tennis, perhaps in all of tennis. She had been named to Forbes' 30 Under 30 Asia list for sports and entertainment. She had been on the cover of Vogue. and she had packed stadiums everywhere she went. The numbers were staggering. At the Australian Open, Eala's press conference drew more than 127,000 views on YouTube. Sabalenka's press conference during the same tournament drew fewer than 6,500 views. At the Miami Open, Eala's press conference attracted roughly 171,000 online viewers, dwarfing the roughly 29,000 who tuned in for Carlos Alcaraz or Coco Gauff and the 9,000 for Sabalenka. The contrast was so stark that fans began asking a question that would echo across social media. Is Sabalenka the world number one or Filipina Eala? Former players took notice. On the Nothing Major podcast, former ADP number 11 Sam Querrey asked the question that everyone was thinking. Is she the biggest draw in women's tennis right now? In the world? Former ADP number 21 Steve Johnson answered without hesitation, yes. When asked if Eala was bigger than Sabalenka and Coco Gauff, Johnson replied, yes. Dude, it's crazy. Every court. In Australia, it was standing room only. Then Dubai, standing room only. It's insane. It's massive. Querrey added, she's already been on the cover of Vogue, and she's like playing well right now too. If she wins a Grand Slam, it would be one of the biggest things in the world. But it wasn't just the former players. Tournament directors were taking notice. Carl Hale, tournament director of the National Bank Open in Toronto, said, we've never seen a player ranked outside the top 5 have this type of effect. When Eala's appearance was announced, seats sold out within 30 minutes. At least 80% of player schedule inquiries concerned Eala. The tournament had to move her from a 2,800-seat court to center court, and even that sold out. Filipino dishes were added to the food menu. Doubles matches were scheduled on center court for the first time in tournament history. The Eala effect had become a force of nature. But with that popularity came backlash. Some critics called her overhyped. Some questioned whether her results justified the attention. And some, like Belinda Bencic after her loss to Eala, lashed out in frustration. But Eala handled it all with grace. She acknowledged the support, thanked her fans, and kept winning. And now, the world number one was about to weigh in. August 8, 2026. Sobeys Stadium. The fourth round of the National Bank Open. Aryna Sabalenka walks on a center court to face Ekaterina Alexandrova, the Russian 16th seed. The crowd is buzzing. But it's not the same crowd that had packed the stadium for Eala's matches. This crowd is more subdued, more neutral. Sabalenka has played in front of hostile crowds before. She has played in front of partisan crowds. But tonight, something feels different. The match begins. Sabalenka breaks for a 2-0 lead in the opening set. She looks in control. But then, Alexandrova drops the next 4 games. Sabalenka holds and breaks back to 4-4 on a forehand drop volley winner. The set goes to a tiebreak. Double faults by Sabalenka in the 11th game and Alexandrova in the 12th surrender breaks. In the tiebreak, the Russian takes 5 of the last 6 points to seal the first set when Sabalenka swats across court forehand wide. The second set is a fight. Alexandrova hits a forehand long to surrender a break and gives Sabalenka a 4-3 lead. The top seed then holds serve twice to force a decider. The match is level. The tension is palpable. The third set is a disaster for Sabalenka. She is broken when she nets a forehand to give Alexandrova a 3-1 edge. The Russian double faults away a break in the 7th game. In the 10th game, Sabalenka makes 3 unforced errors to give Alexandrova break and match points. Sabalenka saves the first on a service winner and the second on an ace. But after sending a backhand beyond the baseline, the Belarusian makes her 6th and final double fault to lose the match. The final score, 7-6, 3, 4-6, 6-4. The upset is complete. After the match, Alexandrova reflects on her victory. I didn't have any expectations before the match. I knew it was going to be super difficult when I walked on the court. I was trying to risk as much as possible because it felt like it was the only way to create some chances. It caused many more mistakes, but at the same time I created many more opportunities. Sabalenka walks off the court, her face a mask of frustration. She has lost in the 4th round of a tournament she had won the previous year. She has lost 500 ranking points. She has lost momentum heading into the US Open. But she has not yet lost her voice. And in the press conference room, she is about to use it in a way that no one expected. The press conference room at Sobeys Stadium is packed. Journalists from around the world have gathered to hear from the world number one. The questions are predictable. What went wrong? How do you explain the loss? What does this mean for your U.S. Open title defense? Sabalenka listens. She nods. She gives the standard answers. But then, something changes. A journalist asks a question that catches Sabalenka off guard. It's not about her match. It's about someone else. It's about Alexandra Eala. The journalist asks Sabalenka for her thoughts on the Eala phenomenon, on the player who has become the biggest draw in women's tennis, on the 21-year-old who has packed stadiums and captured hearts around the world. Sabalenka pauses. She looks at the journalist. She looks at the cameras. And then she delivers a statement that no one saw coming. Alex Eala is the world's number one player, she says. The room falls silent. The journalists look at each other in disbelief. The cameras keep rolling. Sabalenka continues. Look at the numbers. Look at the crowds. Look at what she has done for this sport. She has brought millions of new fans to tennis. She has filled stadiums that would have been half empty. She has inspired an entire nation. That is what a world number one does. That is what a champion does. The rankings are just numbers. They don't tell the whole story. The room erupts. Journalists begin shouting questions. But Sabalenka is not finished. I have been world number one for nearly 2 years. I have won 4 Grand Slams. I have done everything that can be done in this sport. But I have never had the impact that she has had. I have never brought millions of people to the sport. I have never turned strangers into believers. She has done that. And that makes her the world number one in my book. The statement is shocking. It is unprecedented. It is a moment that will be replayed for years to come. The world number one, the 4-time Grand Slam champion, the woman who has dominated women's tennis for 2 years, has just called a 21-year-old from the Philippines the world's number one player. The moment Sabalenka's words hit the internet, the tennis world explodes. Social media is flooded with reactions. The hashtag SabalenkaEala trends globally within hours. Fans, analysts, and fellow players alike weigh in with their opinions. And the reactions are anything but unified. The Filipino community is ecstatic. They see Sabalenka's words as validation of everything they have been saying for months. They flood social media with messages of support for both players. They celebrate Eala's achievement. They thank Sabalenka for her graciousness. They share the clip of Sabalenka's statement millions of times. It is a moment of pure, unbridled joy. But not everyone is celebrating. Some tennis purists are appalled. They argue that rankings exist for a reason. They point out that Sabalenka has 9,090 ranking points, while Eala has just over 2,000. They argue that Sabalenka's statement is a sign of weakness, that she is making excuses for her loss, that she is trying to deflect attention from her own failure. They accuse Sabalenka of being dramatic, of seeking attention, of diminishing the value of the world number one ranking. Other players weigh in. Some defend Sabalenka, pointing out that she has always been gracious in defeat. Others express confusion, wondering what Sabalenka could possibly mean. Some suggest that Sabalenka is being sarcastic, that she is making a joke that no one understands. But those who know Sabalenka best insist that she is sincere. They point to her history of defending Eala, of speaking up for her, of recognizing her impact on the sport. At the Philippine Women's Open earlier in the year, Sabalenka had defended Eala, speaking up to describe the country's tennis icon as a huge boost to local sports and an athlete whose humility is worth emulating by her fellow countrymen. Sabalenka had said, "She's not wrong. She's a strong and independent woman. Insulting her is insulting yourself." This was not a new sentiment. It was a continuation of a pattern. Sabalenka had been watching Eala's rise. She had been paying attention, and she had come to a conclusion that no one else had reached. The debate rages on. Is Sabalenka right? Is Eala the true world number one? Or is Sabalenka simply being gracious in defeat? The tennis world is divided. And at the center of it all is a 21-year-old from Quezon City who never asked for any of this. She just wanted to play tennis. And now, the world number one has called her the best in the world. Let's look at the data. Because numbers, unlike emotions, don't play favorites. But as Sabalenka pointed out, they also don't tell the whole story. The WTA rankings as of June 22, 2026, show Sabalenka at number 1 with 9,090 points. Elena Rybakina is number 2 with 8,143 points. Iga Swiatek is number 3 with 6,733 points. Alexandra Eala is number 20 with just over 2,000 points. The gap is significant. By any objective measure, Sabalenka is the world number 1. She has the points. She has the titles. She has the results. But Sabalenka is making a different argument. She is arguing that the rankings, while important, are not the only measure of a player's impact. She is arguing that popularity, marketability, and inspiration are also valid metrics. She is arguing that Eala, despite her lower ranking, has had a greater impact on the sport than any other player. The numbers support her argument in some ways. Eala's press conference at the Australian Open drew more than 127,000 views. Sabalenka's drew fewer than 6,500. That's a difference of more than 20 to 1. At the Miami Open, Eala's press conference attracted roughly 171,000 online viewers, dwarfing the 9,000 who tuned in for Sabalenka. The contrast is stark, but the comparison goes beyond press conferences. Eala's matches have consistently drawn larger crowds than those of players ranked above her. Tournament directors have been forced to move her to bigger courts. Filipino dishes have been added to food menus. Doubles matches have been scheduled on center court for the first time in tournament history. The Eala effect is real. But critics argue that popularity should not be confused with greatness. They point to Eala's results. She has never won a Grand Slam. She has never reached a Grand Slam semifinal. She has never defeated Sabalenka in a professional match. Her career-high ranking of number 20, while historic for the Philippines, still places her far behind the game's elite. They argue that Sabalenka's statement is an overreaction, that she is being overly gracious, that she is diminishing her own achievements. They argue that the rankings exist for a reason, and that reason is to provide an objective measure of a player's performance. They argue that Sabalenka's statement is a disservice to the sport. But Sabalenka is not backing down. In subsequent interviews, she doubles down on her statement. She explains that she is not diminishing the value of the rankings. She is simply recognizing that there is more to tennis than rankings. She is recognizing that Eala has done something that no other player has done. She is recognizing that Eala has brought millions of new fans to the sport. She is recognizing that Eala has inspired a nation. And she is recognizing that those are the qualities of a true world number 1. While Sabalenka's statement dominates the headlines, Alexandra Eala is handling the situation with remarkable poise. She does not seek the spotlight. She does not exploit the controversy. Instead, she focuses on what matters most: her game, her fans, and her journey. In her own post-match press conference, Eala is asked about Sabalenka's statement. She takes a deep breath. She chooses her words carefully, and then she delivers a response that wins over even more fans. She says that she has nothing but respect for Sabalenka. She acknowledges Sabalenka's incredible achievements in tennis, including her 4 Grand Slam titles and her 94 weeks at world number 1. She says that Sabalenka's words mean the world to her. She says that she has always looked up to Sabalenka, that she has always admired her game, that she has always wanted to compete against her. She says that Sabalenka's serve is the one shot she would steal if she could. She says that everyone wants to play the number 1 in the world, and that Sabalenka is the number 1 in the world. But she also makes it clear that she is not getting ahead of herself. She acknowledges that she still has a long way to go. She says that she has not yet won a Grand Slam. She says that she has not yet proven herself on the biggest stages. She says that she is grateful for the support, but that she knows she has to earn her place. She says that the rankings are not just numbers. They are a reflection of results. And she has not yet achieved the results that would make her the true world number 1. It is a masterclass in diplomacy. Eala does not take the bait. She does not agree with Sabalenka's statement. She does not disagree with it. She simply acknowledges it with grace and humility. She shows the maturity of a player far beyond her years. She reminds everyone that she is not just a product of her fans. She is a talented tennis player who has worked incredibly hard to get where she is. Eala's response is widely praised. Commentators note that she has handled the situation with far more grace than many more experienced players. Fans celebrate her class and composure. And the controversy, while still raging, begins to shift in Eala's favor. She is no longer just the player with the passionate fans. She is also the player with the classy response. She is the player who refuses to be dragged into drama. She is the player who lets her racket do the talking. Sabalenka's statement raises a fundamental question. What does it mean to be the world number one? Is it about points? Is it about titles? Is it about impact? Is it about inspiration? The debate has been raging in tennis circles for years, but Sabalenka has brought it to the forefront like never before. The traditional view is that the world number one is the player who has accumulated the most ranking points over a rolling 52-week period. It is a mathematical calculation, objective and unemotional. It rewards consistency. It rewards results. It rewards winning. By this measure, Sabalenka is the world number one. She has the points. She has the titles. She has the results. There is no debate. But Sabalenka is arguing for a different definition. She is arguing that the world number one should be the player who has the greatest impact on the sport, the player who brings the most fans, the player who inspires the most people, the player who makes the sport bigger, better, and more popular. By this measure, Eala is the world number one. She has the crowds. She has the fans. She has the impact. There is no debate. The question is, which definition is correct? Is tennis a sport or a business? Is it about winning or about entertaining? Is it about results or about inspiration? The answer, of course, is that it is both. Tennis is a sport, and winning matters. But tennis is also entertainment, and popularity matters. The challenge is finding the right balance. And that is where the debate becomes complicated. Some argue that Sabalenka is being too generous. They argue that popularity should not be confused with greatness. They point to players who were popular but never won, players who were beloved but never champions. They argue that the rankings exist for a reason, and that reason is to provide an objective measure of a player's performance. They argue that Sabalenka's statement is a disservice to the sport. Others argue that Sabalenka is being visionary. They argue that tennis needs to evolve, that it needs to embrace new metrics, that it needs to recognize the importance of popularity and marketability. They point to the decline in tennis viewership, the struggle to attract new fans, the competition from other sports. They argue that Eala represents the future, that she is the type of player who can save the sport, that she is the type of player who can bring tennis back to the forefront of popular culture. They argue that Sabalenka's statement is a call to action. The debate is unlikely to be resolved anytime soon. But one thing is certain. Sabalenka's statement has changed the conversation. It has forced the tennis world to think differently about what it means to be number one. And it has elevated Alexandra Eala to a new level of global fame. The drama is over. Sabalenka has spoken. Eala has responded. The tennis world has reacted. But what does this all mean? What is the lasting impact of this controversy? And what does it say about the future of the sport? First, it says that Alexandra Eala has arrived. She is no longer just a promising young player. She is a global phenomenon. She has the ability to fill stadiums, sell tickets, and generate headlines. She has the ability to inspire millions of fans around the world. And she has the ability to make even the world number one acknowledge her greatness. When a 21-year-old from the Philippines can move a four-time Grand Slam champion to call her the world's number one, something significant is happening. Second, it says that tennis is changing. The sport is becoming more global. It is becoming more diverse. It is becoming more accessible. The traditional powerhouses, the United States, Europe, Australia, are no longer the only places where tennis stars are born. They are coming from everywhere. And that is a good thing. Tennis needs new markets. It needs new fans. It needs new stories. And Alexandra Eala is the perfect ambassador for that new era. Third, it says that the Eala effect is here to stay. The Filipino community is not going anywhere. They will continue to show up in droves to support their player. They will continue to fill stadiums, wave flags, and chant her name. And the tennis world will have to adapt. It cannot ignore the Eala effect. It cannot dismiss the Eala effect. It must embrace the Eala effect. Because the Eala effect is the future of tennis. Fourth, it says that Aryna Sabalenka is a true champion. It takes a special kind of person to acknowledge someone else's greatness, especially when that someone else is competing for the same titles, the same rankings, the same recognition. Sabalenka could have dismissed Eala. She could have ignored her. She could have criticized her. Instead, she embraced her. She celebrated her. She called her the world's number one. That is the mark of a true champion. That is the mark of a player who is secure in her own greatness. That is the mark of a player who understands that tennis is bigger than any one player. Finally, It says that Alexandra Eala has a bright future. She has already achieved more than any Filipino tennis player in history. She has won her first WTA title. She has reached the quarterfinals of a WTA 1000 event. She has defeated some of the best players in the world. And she has done it all with grace, humility, and poise. She is not just a tennis player. She is a role model. She is an inspiration. She is a champion. And now, the world number one has called her the world's number one. The controversy will fade. The headlines will change. The debates will move on. But one thing will remain. Alexandra Eala is the future of tennis. And the future is bright. From cracked courts in Quezon City to the quarterfinals of the National Bank Open. From a 20-minute sellout on Court 6 to a sold-out center court in Toronto. From a young girl with a dream to a global phenomenon that even the world number one cannot ignore. Alexandra Eala's journey has defied every expectation. The WTA advised her to withdraw from Birmingham. She signed a waiver and won. They fined her $50,000. She paid it and moved on. They overlooked her for Eastbourne and Berlin. She kept training, kept fighting, kept winning. They scheduled her on a small court in Melbourne. She filled it in 20 minutes. They put her against an Olympic gold medalist in Toronto. She won. And when the world number one called her the world's number one, she responded with grace. This is what champions are made of. This is what legends are built on. The tennis world is watching. The fans are believing. And Alexandra Eala is just getting started. The drama after losing to Bencic was just another chapter in her incredible story. Sabalenka's statement was just another moment in her incredible journey. And the next chapter is already being written. This is not the end. This is only the beginning.